So what do you want people to talk to you about today?
They're all related to one main topic, which is
Mhm.
God.
Okay.
So, in the end, all doors are opening to that
Mm.
topic.
Mm. So do you sort of like have an opinion on what's your thinking then? What, because it's obviously quite a deep conversation that you ask people and you want to record the conversations and then post them. So I mean, do you promote belief in God or promote atheism or agnosticism? What's your start, your vantage point?
Well, it's not like promoting, indeed. Sometimes I can even promote belief, even
Mm.
as an atheist. But my main point is not promoting belief or disbelief.
Right.
My main concern is about learning and just teaching what I learned so far
Okay.
about reasoning in these topics.
Right. Okay. So, what would you want to share with me then that you think could help me?
Uh, what can help you because I don't know you. Maybe you can help me. Maybe I'm in that position.
Well, um, sometimes a conversation can be beneficial mutually. So, okay.
Agreed.
Well, I mean, I believe in God.
Mm.
That's my starting point. But I don't have a you know problem with people having their own whatever they want to believe or what they stand for, because of course everybody has their own journey um, to undertake. But ultimately, um, I think that we live a life where often we don't think deeply enough, and I think that's part of the problem. What do you think?
I agree so far.
Hmm. Yeah. So the modern world is just full of distraction, and I think if we actually stopped and pondered and thought about things a bit more deeply, um, maybe conclusions would be different. Maybe they'd be the same, but at least would still probably grow, because we've actually taken the time to reflect deeply, rather than just living just because we're alive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, but problem is maybe it's very okay not to think about these topics. Maybe that they're so unnecessary. Imagine there's no God, so then what's the point or benefit of thinking about God? Something doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe there's a God, then of course, um, you're not going to you're not going to think about it. It doesn't make any sense to do that. Philosopher, just give me about 2 minutes. I just need to quickly make a phone call,
Take your time,
uh,
man.
and I'll be back. Okay.
Maybe you should follow me here because I may recreate the room if you're late. Okay, so if I disappear, probably it means I created another room.
All right, no problem. That's fine.
Okay.
All right, well, give me a minute. Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
take your time, man.
Okay. So where were we?
Uh, I think we just start making some big points. At least I remember what I said. If there's no God, then that would be really unnecessary to think about these topics.
Sure, sure.
Um,
Yeah. Um, I think a lot of people. I'll be honest with you. I live in the Western world, um, and this is linked, but slightly off topic. But at the same time, it's definitely linked. A lot of people now, they've, like, let's just say they've made a lot of money, had a nice house, and had all the trappings of a successful materialistic kind of life, if you like. But so many of them end up becoming depressed. There's something like it's missing, and many people now are turning towards some sort of spirituality, some sort of faith, whatever faith they choose or whatever. But they're not satisfied just with having made money, having had a car, and a beautiful wife, or whatever else. So they've achieved those things, but they want more. And a lot of people in the Western world now are actually starting to move. There's a shift happening, and they're going towards a more spiritual path.
I would like to give you an example. Are you fan of Marvel movies?
Not really, but I understand a little bit about these things. But carry on.
Just going to pinpoint a scene from Iron Man if
Okay.
you had watched it, but if you didn't, then I can just make my point.
Sure.
Well, did you watch?
Iron Man, I may have seen it at one stage, but I really don't remember.
Oh, okay. If you don't remember, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to use that example. So, but
Okay.
what I wanted to say simply is, I can agree with you that something is missing,
Yes.
and it's a fact that people are trying to fill the gap with spirituality. That's also the fact. But that doesn't mean that there cannot be any other things that we could fill the gap. Because when you look at believers, they're also depressed. Many of them are depressed. So then something is not matching there, right? So it's not solving the problem. It's solving some of people's problem, but not all people. So that means it's not the hardcore cure of depression or those problems that people are having. And the solution can be in many different ways, I believe. And one of the things, yes, spirituality. And as I said in the beginning, I'm not promoting atheism. I am an atheist. I'm even suggesting people to stay in their religions, some people, because I see that they're really depressed, and the only thing that they're make them stick to this life is their belief. And I say, please stay away from me, my rooms. Just keep believing, whether you believe without harming other people.
Sure.
And probably that's the best thing that you can do so far, or in the future. So yes, what I'm trying to emphasize, the beliefs and the spirituality can be helpful and is helpful for many people. That's the fact.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, for a person who's seeking the truth, it's not a good evidence to see that, people find some comfort or some, let's say, cure in spirituality isn't the evidence or good evidence that, yes, there are something spiritual out there.
Okay. So let's interact a little bit then, which will be good for your recording. So what do you believe would become of you after you physically die from this world?
What will happen?
Yeah.
According to my society and religion, they will bury me under the ground, and what happens to dead bodies, that the body just decomposes in the soil, eaten by bacteria and some many creatures.
Bugs and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. But will there be any consciousness at all, or nothing?
I don't believe that there will be, because I don't have good evidence to believe that there will be consciousness, because I don't see any consciousness belonging to the dead people.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't observe such things.
Okay. I think the thing that I would probably say to you is that if we are only a body, then I'm completely with you. We're on the same page, and we can end the conversation now and go and have this cup of tea. No problem at all. But we have a saying from one of our scholars. He said basically, you can have one dead body or 100 dead bodies. They are equally useless. So it doesn't matter. It's an infinite number. So what he was trying to say is that the actual use is what allows that body to actually function and have life within it. So it's the belief in the human soul, the spirit. So it's about understanding this aspect of what we are. So I'll give you a tiny example. So you have, let's say, Mr. John Smith, for example. So Mr. John Smith, he basically he dies, and then what do people talk about? They say, "Oh, we need to collect the body." They don't say we need to collect John Smith. We need to take the body to the funeral home. We need to prepare blah 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 for the funeral and so forth. So we now talk about the body. We don't talk about John Smith anymore. So it's like something deep rooted within us knows that this body, although it was John Smith when he was walking, talking, eating around us, laughing, joking with us, everything, this was John Smith. But now that he's actually died, oh, he's not actually John Smith. The real John Smith that was allowing this body to do everything and move and walk and talk is something else.
Yeah, but
So I think we do know deep down inside that there's more to it.
I wouldn't say that we know it, and I would say that it's just an interpretation of what we observe. But we can see that in a way that, hey, what happens, John Smith? Yeah, it's just a body.
Mhm.
And that can be understood as, okay, the consciousness has disappeared. It's not there anymore. That's why we call, oh, it's just the body, that body. Because John Smith doesn't exist anymore. The consciousness
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore. And that's why, yeah, we refer only to the body when people die or after they die.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean consciousness survives.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. But that's if you don't believe in a soul, which I do. I believe that we are a soul with a body. We're not a body just, with some sort of consciousness allowing it to function. I think that the actual life force is the spirit that is us, the real us. And this body is what basically we can function within this world. So it's the vehicle, basically.
Mhm.
And the spirit is the spark, if you like. Obviously, just we're using semantics. So it's just like the divine spark that has been gifted to us, so that we can know life, so we can experience life, and that's why when these two things are separated, then the body becomes utterly useless, immobile. It can have no functionality at all. But of course, it has to be an extremely complicated vehicle, i.e., the body, to house what is the most precious gift of all, which is this divine spark that has been gifted by God Himself to us so that we can understand life.
As I said, just before you, we can take it vice versa and we can say that, okay, the finely functioning body allows the consciousness to arise. When it stops functioning finely, then the consciousness disappears. And maybe that's all the case. As I said, there's no good evidence to think that there is a separate soul even after we die. We don't have the good evidence to claim that that is the case. And we can easily assume that, okay, probably the consciousness is a rising feature of the material that we have. And when the body doesn't function properly, then it just disappears. And there's a really, very simple way to examine this, right? If you hit your head heavily, then there will be problems in your reasoning, consciousness, or whatever you perceive the world.
Yes.
And we can experiment. It's all related to the brain. All related to the brain. And when it becomes not functioning, the brain, then we lose that consciousness. So the disconnection simply says that, okay, that's an arising feature from the brain. And when it's not functioning properly, it just disappears. And here's the thing: you can use another feature of body. The body emits heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you die, it starts emitting heat. It becomes cold.
Mm-hmm. True.
So maybe consciousness is something like heat that your body is producing.
The okay. There's lots of ways to sort of probably address this, but it is definitely that the body alone. Yes, you're right. If something happens to the brain, whatever, but this is the vehicle linked with this world. So you're supposed to function in the world with this vehicle, i.e., your body. But it doesn't mean that the deeper consciousness, if a person is spiritually aware, that they don't have abilities, etc. They do, absolutely, they do. But when somebody doesn't actually traverse a spiritual path and hasn't managed to grow or go down this path, then they'll be unaware of it. So there's a couple of verses from the Quran, because I'm a Muslim, so I'll just give you a couple of verses here. I just want to read this to you. So this is talking about someone when they're at the point of dying. So the verse here, I won't read the Arabic, I'll just do the English here. So it says, why is it not that when the soul, comes up to the throat, and you at that time look on, and we, i.e. God, it's the royal plural here, and we are nearer to it than you, but you do not see. Then why is it not, if you are not held under authority, that you cannot send it back if you are the truthful? So what is being said here is that if you are not subjugated, if you are not under authority of God, then imagine we all have loved ones in our lives and someone is basically unwell and they're dying. So we simply say, no, I'm not having that. We're going to reverse this. This is going to change, and we want this person to be back alive again. If it was just about the body, then with all of the technological advancements, medicines and whatever else, how come we can never bring that person back to actual life again? That's the question that I think God is asking in these verses. Like, if you're truthful, restore him to life, restore her to life.
Mm-hmm. But that's total logical mistake. Our inability to, do something is not the evidence of another thing. And in this case, the existence of God, the power that God can bring that people to life. And those two things are not following each other logically. My inability not to fly is not evidence of aliens who prevent me to fly. I could do the same thing. Hey, I can't fly like a bird, and I don't have the authority. That means there is an alien who is preventing me to do that. Its powers are beyond my powers. That's why I can't do these things. So there could be a person who believes in such a thing, but that would be the same logical mistake, because two things are not following each other. Just because I'm not able to do something, it's not maybe it's not because of another thing. It could be, by the way. It could be. Maybe, yeah, it's the reason. Maybe your God is real. Maybe that's why we can't do that thing. Maybe God doesn't allow us to do, or God knows that we can never do those things. But the fact that we cannot bring dead people back to life is the evidence of that we cannot do that thing. No, and it's not the evidence of other things.
No. This it's almost like, I mean, for me, it's let's just say I agree with what you're saying, although I don't completely. I think, yeah, some of what you said, fair enough. We can accept that. But I think the point here is that the question is being asked: if you are truthful in whatever you claim, restore the person back to life. Go ahead, do it. And to date, we have never been able to bring a single dead body back to life. Just, okay, bang,
Yeah.
my loved one died, someone died. I want them back to life because I miss them and I want them back in my life. We can't do it. So the fact that we can't do this should be like a starting point to start to think deeper about, okay, so what else? What other options do we have? And then we start going down the road of philosophizing and thinking and strategizing and what other options could there be. And ultimately, we have to keep going back and back and back, and then the only logical explanation for a person like myself, of course we can completely disagree here, no issue, is that there is God. And to know God and what God is God is a being who didn't have a beginning or an end, and is infinite and doesn't have limits. So this is the being because of whom everything and anything else can actually come into existence. And this is the being who then is basically asking us to come back and reconnect with him, to get to know him. And we only use the word him, by the way. It's got nothing to do with male or female or anything like this. So you know this anyway. But what we do is we live our life and we enjoy our life and so forth. And we don't ask these questions. So I was in a room with a lady probably about 3 or 4 months ago. Very, very nice person. I won't mention her name, but she comes on this platform fairly recently, fairly regularly. And I sort of, when she said to me, she's an outright atheist. That's it. I don't believe. I said, okay, that's fair enough. Agree to disagree. And then we got into a bit of a conversation. So I asked her a simple question, and I said to her, so if you are an atheist and there's nothing else subjugating you, then stop yourself from sleeping. Because surely that's a waste of a third of your life. Sleeping. Complete waste. Yeah. And she was like, oh, And then I asked her the next question. I said, what are you consciously doing to make your heart beat right now? And again, she couldn't answer the question, and she got a little bit annoyed with me, to be honest. All I was doing was posing questions.
Yeah, but I agree that those questions are annoying because, as I said, there are logical mistakes in those questions and in those reasonings.
Well, according to your understanding, but this is what I'm saying is you can start from a point where you think something is a logical mistake, or you can say there is enough logic here for me to start thinking deeper, and that's all I will say to you, rather than have an open, you're wrong, or I forget that. We're not here to argue with you. We're just having a very civil conversation. And another question I asked somebody recently, again, same kind of topic we had, was basically where we come from. We exist. Okay, we were born. And I asked this person, I said, and there was only men in the room at the time. I said, look, there's only men in the room, so I'm going to say openly and bluntly. I said, we men, we basically emit sperm. Okay, we create semen and we emit this. And this is where obviously the life force comes, and obviously fertilized the egg of our wives or whatever and so forth. I said to this person, I said, can you please tell me, what do we consciously do to produce this fluid within our bodies? And again, silence. And I said to him, again, there's another verse in the Quran when God asks us to think about this and says, is it you who created this fluid, this life-giving fluid? Or God is saying, or is it me? I'm the one who actually made it exist inside of you and even come there. So for example, it comes out after obviously relations and whatever else. And then, so that's it. So we are now empty of this fluid. So what do we do now to make this come back again? The answer is absolutely nothing. Yet we needed this to be actually born. So for me, there are hundreds of reasons and hundreds of ways to start the conversation and to think and to start going back. And when you keep going back, you come to a logical conclusion that there is something greater, there is something bigger, whatever you believe that to be. That's, we can agree to disagree, but that's my kind of way of trying to get people to think, and that's what I did with myself.
It's a fallacious way. Very fallacious way.
I don't think it's fallacious.
It is very. Like, okay, then can you challenge what you are suggesting? Like, let's go deeply. Like, maybe that person that you talked before didn't ask these questions to herself, but I, as an ex-Muslim, I ask these questions, and I'm still asking many questions like that.
Okay.
Let's go back and back and back, and let's assume that there is a force behind all those things. Let's go back to your God. Let's say that somehow we reach that conclusion. So at least technically you reach that conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, like think about that. Like think about your statement. There must be something beyond all those things. What is beyond? What is behind your God?
But this is exactly the question that people ask when they don't want to actually stop at the point where there is no other question beyond. So somebody asks the question about where did God come from?
Sure.
So this is although it's a valid question, it's actually an ignorant question. No, I'll give you a reason why. And I'm not being disrespectful. I'm actually saying it. It's ignoring what God is. So it's about understanding what God is. So if we've ignored what God is, then we will ask such a question. So if God, not if, but God is, but I'm saying if purely for the sake of discussion, out of respect for you, if God is all-powerful, infinite, and has complete authority, power, you name it, etc., then he didn't come from anywhere. He is the origin of everything, because that he is what he is. So to ask where he came from is to misunderstand God in the first place, which is why that question is asked.
Okay, even if that's the case, even if your definition is right, even if there is such a being, still it doesn't mean it didn't come from anywhere.
Well, if you want to do that game, then you will just go around in circles.
No.
Yeah, you will. You will, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying is the people need to understand, what does God actually mean? And this is what is God? So when by the way, I've got to probably leave in about 4 or 5 minutes because it's time to break the fast and pray and stuff, etc. But let's finish this conversation because I hope it's been interesting anyway. So basically, understanding, God, or trying to understand God, is one of the biggest things, in life. It's going on this journey, but God is a being, because he is not comparable with anything else. It's not like
statements.
God is not comparable.
These are statements, these are definitions of a concept. Sure. And here's the thing, here's a rule.
Cool.
Just because you define something, you create a concept, that doesn't mean it necessarily exists out there. It may exist. Maybe that's true, as I said from the beginning. Maybe there's Allah, even Allah. I'm not even saying God.
Sure.
But when we say maybe, it means maybe not also. And again, just because there is the concept of Superman, that doesn't mean Superman is real. It could be, but that doesn't mean necessarily it's real. So God is this concept. It can be real, but that doesn't mean it's real. So when you ask those questions to yourself, okay, what's the cause of this, and what makes those things work? Okay, let's assume you're right, that there is a cause. But that doesn't mean the cause is your God. Maybe there are many multiple causes out there, outside of this universe, and maybe we don't have any idea about those things. and maybe they also have causes. Maybe those causes don't have causes like your concept of God. And when we look at this move right now, it's way different than your religion, but it also fits in your reasoning. It follows. So that means like your questions can lead to any kind of belief. It's not only leading to your God, it's leading to many other different things, even non-gods. So asking those questions, that's why it's not that much important for me. And I understand the depth of those questions.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. But I think personally, anybody who listens to this conversation, I think they can make their own mind up whether what I'm saying and the things I've kind of mentioned already, these questions are asked in order for us to think deeper. But if we aren't ready to actually think about what God is, and we've already decided we don't want God, or we don't want to believe in God, then of course we can go in any direction we like.
That would be a really bad accusation for the people who currently don't believe.
No. What I'm saying is, that's what I'm saying. If people don't want to believe in God, that's their choice. They don't want to believe in God. Yeah. So they will then take this thinking wherever they want. But what we're saying is, if you look at some of the major religions, they have a concept, or they have teachings basically of what God is. Yeah. So Islam being one of the biggest religions in the world, we differ from our Christian friends as to what God is. Although our Christian friends will also say they believe in one God, although they have a Trinity, apart from if you are a Unitarian Christian. Judaism, of course, believes in one God. Even Hindus actually say, ultimately, we do believe in one God. Many do. So it's about understanding, okay, people, because of free will, have come up with various paths to this God. But as an intelligent human being, which we hope we are, God has made us intelligent beings, we can actually think deeply, ask enough questions, and get enough insight to find our way. And I truly believe that this is what it comes down to. But because we don't either want to think deeply enough, or we've already decided that we don't want to believe in God, in which case we're going to go down another road.
I disagree. Like that's the accusation mostly coming from believers that I see many times. They think in that way. I see that, and this is really upsetting for me, because my case is not I don't want to believe, but my case is I don't believe currently. That doesn't mean I don't want to believe. And also that doesn't mean that we don't think deeply. Maybe we are even thinking deeper than maybe you and the other believers. So, and the ways that we find in the end of our thinking, as I mentioned, maybe there are many gods, or maybe there are many causes out there, but not like your gods. So, or maybe there are other things that even we cannot imagine, but still not your God. So we also reach those conclusions. We just don't know what's the case. I can even say that maybe there's no any cause of this universe, like your God. And all those things are as a result of thinking. And just because I don't reach your God, that doesn't mean I don't want to believe your God intentionally.
Exactly. That's why I said to you, if, and I used the word if you listen back, I did. If the people don't want to believe, but you're telling me you do, which is fantastic. So great. My sort of like advice to you would be, carry on doing what you're doing, because if you say you're a deep thinker, then one day your thoughts will actually take you down a path where you will feel some sort of internal satisfaction, and then you will go down a particular road. Let me ask you a question.
Let me add one thing. But what if your God is on the, let's say, 5th level, but maybe I'm already way down below than your God? So you're saying think more, but maybe I already passed your God by thinking.
Well, I would respectfully agree to disagree, because I think when you think deeply, there is nothing beyond God.
Okay.
I don't believe
Maybe
there's
maybe
anything
you
beyond.
should keep thinking, and maybe you will find other options also.
I've been down these roads. I've been down these roads. So, and
Maybe
I'm
not
completely
deeply
content.
enough.
Well, no, fair enough. I'll accept that. I'll
Okay.
accept what you say, but at the same time, because I have contentment within myself, I'm completely content. I don't have any issues, and I don't have any burning questions which still I need answers to. Mine is just an ongoing journey on a path that I believe is right for me, and that's what I'm trying to do. But let me just ask you one last question,
Yeah,
and if
sure.
you haven't, I'll give you this link, and then I really need to go because of the time. Have you ever read Najul Balagha? And do you
No.
know this book? Okay, please read Najul Balagha, and then have a little read and ponder, and then maybe it will give you something different to think about. So here's a link for you. Okay, it's basically the teachings and sayings from Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib.
I'm sorry. I'm not a book person. I'm really disappointed by many books in my life, so I decided not to waste my time. But I really suggest people who are advising me to read books to read the books again and come back and please summarize the points, read the good points, then we can discuss about those points.
If just read the first sermon, then that's all. Just read the first sermon.
Okay.
You don't need to read the entire book. Read the first sermon, and then you can decide whether it's worth reading more of this particular book. Okay. Anyway, thank you for your time. It's been a very very useful conversation. To be honest with you, I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for joining.
And no, a lot of people, to be honest with you, when you have completely conflicting ideas, people become a bit hostile or something, to be honest with you. But we've had a very
and I am indeed, but not all the time.
No, but you don't need to be with someone like that. I'm a very relaxed. I'm a Muslim. I'm very strong in my faith, but I'm a very
You're
relaxed
a very
person.
polite person. Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, bless you. Take care of yourself, and maybe
You
we'll
too.
catch up
You
another
too.
time.
Happy Ramadan. Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you.
I should end the recording right now. That was a nice conversation. And that's what I'm saying mostly. There are always good people. Doesn't matter believer or non-believer. Doesn't matter which religion. There are always good people.